Family disowned me 8 years ago because my golden twin slept with my girlfriend, but now they wants to reconnect. But I'm disgusted after I knew why they really reached out to me. After being disowned 8 years ago, my family has invited me, my wife, 27, female and daughter, one female for Christmas after getting conflicted advice from my friends. One of my buddies told me to post my dilemma here to see what random internet strangers would say. I'm 25 male and youngest of 4 kids between my mom, 52 female and dad, 54 male. My siblings are fake names. Michael, 31 male, Sarah, 28 female, and my twin brother Carl, 25 male. For context, growing up I was the black sheep of the family, and I knew that from a very young age. You see, my family is full of athletes. My dad was a star basketball player for idiots who school. My mom played volleyball, Michael played soccer, Sarah played softball, and Carl was the star running back for the football team. I was never really interested in any of those physical sports, but rather, I was interested in archery, which my family called a wimpy sport. My parents were always invested in my siblings and rarely ever attended my events to the point where I basically had to beg for them to come to my tournaments between the ages of 14 to 16. I had taken part in about 20 tournaments, while my parents only showed up to one. I was never neglected by them, but they were never emotionally there for me as they were for my siblings. And as a teenager, I resented that whenever I tried to bring this up to them, they would always call me an attention seeker. But however, this is not why I was disowned by my family. When I was 15, I began dating Amy, now 25 female, who was in the same rate as me at that time. After about 6 to 7 months of dating, I introduced her to my folks and my siblings, and they really liked her. I know I was young, but I could see myself having a future with her. Almost 3 years later, one of Amy's ex-friends told me that she had been cheating on me for a couple of months at a time. I didn't know who the guy was, but after confronting her, she told me that it was my twin brother. She basically told me that while at first she loved me, the love she had for my brother surpasses that. Later that day, when I confronted Carl at home, I was so enraged that I sucker punched him and knocked him out. I admit that I should have not gotten violent, but years of resentment towards him and the rest of the family just burst open. In exchange for my family not pressing charges on me as I could have been tried as an adult in court, I was sent to live with my paternal aunt, fourth female, who at this point was estranged from the family and lived in another city about 2 hours away. From then on, I have not had any contact with them. At first it was tough, but later on, with support from my aunts and her husband at 48 male, it moved on from wanting a relationship with them. I transferred to a different high school and attended a university in Miami City and graduated as an electrical engineer. I later met my wife and got married to her. I, at the time of my wedding, thought about inviting them, but once against it because I did not want any sort of drama to my wedding. From that point, me and my wife bought a house an hour away from my ends and were blessed with a daughter a year ago. About a week ago, I received a Facebook message from a mother and father wanting to reconnect over Christmas at their house. I told them that I would consider it as I possibly have other plans, but would give them a clear answer soon. Later on, both Michael and Sarah sent me friend requests, which felt weird to me. My wife has told me that if I decided to go, she and my daughter would spend Christmas at my father-in-law's house as she does not have to deal with unwanted stress as she is 2 months pregnant. And I agree with her. My question to those reading those is that should I go and try to reconcile with my family, or should I not? I'm very conflicted on what to do. On one hand, they perhaps feel bad about what they did to me and want to apologize for what they did. But on the other hand, perhaps if I go there, they will try to make me apologize to Carl, which I did not want to. Any advice would be helpful. Now for the top comments before reading the update. I think you should go another time. Spend Christmas with your wife and child. Visit your family at a less stressful time to see if they have any ulterior motives. It might just be about them wanting to see their grandchildren and not so much about you, which would be hurtful too. Yeah, I agree. Go another time. I was thinking the same thing. It could be something related to the grandkids. Spend Christmas with your wife, a child. Christmas is too big of an event to meet them. Also, update us. I can't get this post out of my hand. I can't imagine a parents kicking out their child who was betrayed by their other child. They might want to reconnect due to money. Grandchild? I don't know. But it's weird that even his siblings texted Opie. I hope it's for a good reasons, though. I honestly would spend Christmas away from my pregnant wife for them. Maybe I'm missing something, but why Christmas? They could have reached out at any time and given you a chance to pick a convenient time as they're the ones trying to amend things. I don't know. It seems weird to me. I personally wouldn't go unless you desperately want them back in your life. Optics. They found out Opie has a kid and is successful, and now they're trying to heal the family so they don't look like trash. Abandoned their son years ago. It's a trap. Notice they didn't open with any remorse or any sign of an apology. They want something, money-free work and organ access to your babies or just to look good to their friends. I'm not saying don't go, but keep your expectations low. Be ready for we need you to do X for us in order to properly reconcile speech and have a quick exit prepared. I don't know. As a parent, I cannot fathom going no contact with one of my children for 8 years after my other child did something so cruel to him, so he hit him. That is just inconceivable to me. Now, totally understand if my son hits his brother. If he ever did something like that, may be wrong. And I know I'm not supposed to say that, but we're all still human. Whether you can move past the fact they abandoned you to your arms and turned their backs for 8 years is your choice. But personally, I don't know if I could. If you can't and don't want to see them again, I doubt anyone would blame you. If they do, they don't know the full story. If they do know the full story, then they're not worth your time either. And now for the update. Update 1. I wanted to post earlier, but some things got in the way. 2 days after Christmas, my wife began to experience unbearable pain in her abdomen area, and she hardly could stand on her 2 feet. Me and her sister, 30 female, rushed her to the hospital where we found out that my wife had suffered a miscarriage and that the fetus had to be removed right away. Honestly, the worst part of me was explaining to my wife what had happened due to complications surrounding the operation. My wife was forced to stay for 2 more days. Honestly, I have been trying to stay strong for my wife and my daughter, but honestly, I'm struggling right now. Also, the updates of the original post. Most of you that commented on the same day post had told me not to spend Christmas with them because of the significance of that holiday. I agree, and decided I would spend the rest of the holidays with my wife. They never made time for me, so why should I make time for them? When I texted them this, I assumed they would try to argue with me, but rather they said they respected my opinion and could not wait to see me after the holidays. I began to do some digging into my family to try to figure out why they have reached out. Michael is a corporate lawyer who works for a major company in my hometown, but looking through his Facebook page, she has 2 daughters and was married to his wife in 2016. Sarah appears to be married to a doctor. She herself, 8 years ago, is studying to be a nurse, and they have a son together. I have a friend who lives in my hometown and has parents who are friends with my parents. When I asked her about Sarah, she told me that Sarah had divorced her first husband, the one she was dating 8 years ago after he had committed mail fraud. Carl got married to Amy right after high school, and they have 2 kids together. I cannot exactly figure out what he or his wife does for a living through Facebook, but judging that they bought a big house last year in the midst of a pandemic tells me they are not really struggling. My dad seems to be going through a midlife crisis, and my mother is really into the wellness community, and then began to list their reasons of why they wanted to possibly reach out to me now. 1. Money. And likely because 8 years ago, my parents' combined salary was higher than my wife and my salary. And given that my siblings are not struggling financially, makes me think money is not a reason. 2. Organ. Donation could be the case, but seems unlikely. But a commenter said that it could be that Carl, given he is my twin, would be my most likely match. And I think it's unlikely because he was tagged in a Facebook post scheme just a week before Christmas. 3. Regarding my daughter, they could possibly be reaching out to me to have a relation to my daughter, but I honestly am not sure. My daughter is not the first granddaughter for my parents, so I do not know why they want to meet her. The most likely found out my daughter existed because my wife's Facebook account was public. She has since private had her account, but then contacted my aunt. These change wanted took me in informing her about the situation, and she explained to me why they were reaching out to me after all this time. To understand the situation, you need to understand why my aunt was estranged. My paternal grandpa, 79 male and grandma, 76 female, had 4 children. My dad was the second oldest and my aunt's was the third. My aunt's, after college, decided that she will not work for the family business and went to live by her own. My grandparents immediately disowned her and refused to have any contact with her. However, about 4 years ago, my grandpa began to reach out. About a month ago, my grandpa had been asking about me and what I was doing in life, and whether I was married or had kids. My aunt responded by calling the grandpa out for wanting to know about me after he supported Carl for what he did. That is when the whole situation changes. My grandpa told my aunts that it's because I had cheated on Amy with one of her close friends. So I deserve to be outraged. My grandpa is a religious nut, so he looks down on cheating. He had been told by my family that after different who I allegedly cheated with confessed to Amy. She wanted Carl and Sarah for support and comfort, But when I found out about this, I confronted and brutally attacked Carl and Sarah. While Sarah was the one who tried to break me and Carl apart, I did not lay a finger on her. And I did not do that to Carl. When my aunt was telling me this, my jaw dropped. I could not believe that they hated me so much that they were willing to make a big, terrible lie about me and spread it around. My aunt later told Grandpa the full truth, and what truly happened and my aunt told me he was shocked because he always thought Carl was a good kid. My grandma, but then asked my aunt for my number, which she declined to give. It figured out why my parents and siblings wanted to get in touch with me. It turns out, my grandpa had told my parents and my siblings that if they did not apologize for what they did to me and have me over for the family Christmas dinner, they would be cut off from his will. For context, he is a multimillionaire. So that is why they reached out to me not to apologize about how they all wronged me in the past, but rather because if they did not, they would not get anything from Grandpa. What a bunch of greedy people. After hearing about this from my aunt, I decided to block all of them. Why should I respond to them? At this point, all of them are dead to me. I have a wife to support after what she went through at a family that respects me and my in-laws. However, this does not end here. As 3 days after New Year's Eve, I received a call from an unknown number on my work phone. I'm used to getting calls from unknown numbers because of my career, but when I picked up, I heard my grandfather's voice. He most likely got my number from my company website. The first thing he did was apologize for not trying to get in contact with me for the past 8 years. He told me he was sorry that he could not be there for important events such as my graduation, the wedding, and the birth of my daughter. I was not really close to him before, so him cutting me off did not bother me. Later in a call, he told me he was so disgusted with the rest of my family that he is cutting them off as well and adding me to it. I honestly do not know how to feel about that, as the money would be helpful, but at the same time, I do not want him to use those as a way to force a relationship between me and my daughter. We talked for about half an hour on the way to call. Once made me think that perhaps I could build a good relationship with my grandpa, but then he told me something that got me really pissed. He told me that he was disappointed and that my daughter had not taken the family name for context. After I got married to my wife, the issue of what last name to use as a couple came up. For some legal reasons, I wasn't able to change my last name to my wife's last name, but we decided as a couple that all of our future children would have her last name. I, at this point, unloaded on my grandpa, calling him a senile old man and many other hurtful things, and told him to never contact me ever again. The audacity of this man to say that after what I went through is something I will not let him use the money I received in the will to control me. Even if I receive the money, I will donate it to a local charity. But he's a man of false promises, so this is unlikely. These past few weeks have been really tough for me, and I hope to make it to the other side. My wife has private at her Facebook account, and my in-laws have done the same. What they do to try to contact me is beyond me. How they would probably hire a private detective to try to find me. I believe they do not know where I live, but you never know. I've thought to get a restraining order, but given that there are lawyers within a family means getting a restraining order will be hard. I did not really get any time to answer any questions given in my last post before it was deleted for some reason. I will do my best to answer any questions for the next day or two, but after this, I'm done using the site for a while. Thank you for all your advice that I wish you all the best in this new year. Update 2. Hey everyone, it's time for another big update from my end. And boy, it's been a roller coaster. A lot has happened since the last time I posted, and I've got some pretty heavy stuff to share. So let's start with my grandpa. Our relationship has always been a bit rocky, with lots of ups and downs, mostly because we just didn't talk much. But recently, he did something that totally caught me off guard. He actually agreed with my decision to give my kids their mom's last name. Not just that, he's cool with them deciding if they want to change it when they're older. For a guy from his generation, that's pretty progressive, and honestly, it felt really good to hear him support our decision. During a recent visit to introduce my kids to their great-grandpa, he decided to drop a huge bombshell. Out of nowhere, he tells me that he's put me in his will, and I'm set to inherit something like $2, $3 million in assets. Yeah, you read that right. Millions. I was floored. Not just because of the amount, but because it suddenly made sense why my estranged family suddenly wanted to get all cozy again. This whole inheritance thing has really made me rethink their motives. It's pretty clear now that their sudden interest in reconnecting had more to do with the potential money coming my way than any real desire to make amends. It's kind of sickening to realize that, but it's not entirely surprising, given our history. This whole situation has thrown me into a loop, making me think back to all the family drama over the years. I've always been the odd one out because I wasn't into sports like the rest of them. I got into archery, which they all thought was lame. My twin brother's betrayal 8 years ago was the last straw. He got involved with my girlfriend at the time, and instead of getting any support, I was the one who got kicked out. They sided with him and pretty much erased me from their lives until now. Fast forward to now, and after being out of touch for so long, they hit me up wanting to reconnect just as Grandpa changes his will. Coincidence? I think not. Introducing my kids to Grandpa went better than expected. It was kind of nice seeing them meet him, and he actually seemed to enjoy it too. We had some real talk, and he shared a lot of old family stories, which was interesting and gave me a lot to think about. But it's tough to shake off the feeling that there's always some angle or hidden agenda with my family. Now, I've got to figure out what to do next. How do I handle this inheritance? Do I even want to dive back into the family drama pond because of the money? And how do I deal with Grandpa's newfound interest in my life without feeling like it's all just because of the will? This is a lot to process, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to move forward. If anyone's got any advice or has been through something similar, I'd love to hear it. Family can be complicated, and right now it feels like I'm in the middle of a soap opera. Thanks for letting me vent here. This community has been a great support through all of this craziness. I'll keep you all posted on what happens next. Here's to hoping for less drama and more peace in the future. Update 3. Hey Reddit. So here's the scoop. Someone, I suspect one of my uncles who's always been a bit of a blabbermouth, leaked the info about Grandpa's will changing. Suddenly, my Facebook inbox is like a war zone, bombarded with messages from family members I haven't heard from in ages. They're accusing me of everything under the sun, from being a master manipulator to tricking a sweet old man into giving me his fortune. Honestly, the creativity of their accusations could fuel a Netflix series. The irony here? I haven't done anything. I barely even talked to Grandpa, let alone have enough influence to change his will. But here we are, with me as the family's new favorite villain. Let me paint a picture of the kinds of messages I'm getting. 1. My older sister, who usually can't even remember my birthday, sent me a long rant about family loyalty and how I've betrayed everyone's trust. She ended her message with a passive-aggressive, "Hope you're happy with yourself." 2. Then there's my cousin Dave, who's suddenly interested in reconnecting after years of silence. His message was all sweet and nostalgic until he hit me with a "so" about Grandpa's will. 3. And let's not forget Aunt Linda, who straight up accused me of using dark magic, her words not mine, to influence Grandpa. I didn't know whether to laugh or be offended. Honestly, the audacity and the theatrics of it all have turned into my new form of entertainment. My wife and I have started taking bets on who's going to say what next. Will Uncle Joe claim I brainwashed Grandpa with some high-tech gadget? Will Cousin Sarah start a Facebook group to save Grandpa from my clutches? The possibilities are endless and bizarrely amusing. Here's the thing. This whole fiasco has really put things into perspective. Watching my family lose their minds over money has just reaffirmed why I stepped back from them in the first place. There's something liberating about seeing their true colors on full display. It's like confirmation that I made the right call by keeping my distance. Plus, it's not about the money for me. I've built a life that I'm proud of, far away from the family's toxicity. I have a beautiful wife, great kids, and a peaceful home. No inheritance can top that, no matter how many zeros are attached. Grandpa, for his part, seems oblivious to the chaos he's sparked. Or who knows, maybe he planned this as a final test to see who's who in the family zoo. Last I heard from him, he was just concerned about making his peace, setting his affairs in order, and making sure I knew he supported me. It's weirdly touching, even if it's caused a hurricane of family drama. For now, I'm just sitting back and watching how this all unfolds. I'm keeping records of all the messages, partly for legal cover if things get nastier, and partly because you never know when you'll need a good laugh at the absurdity of it all. As for responding, I'm staying out of it. No messages, no calls, no engagement. Like watching a soap opera where you root for the chaos, but stay safely on your couch. Thanks for letting me vent and for all the advice you guys have offered in the past. It's been a wild ride, and somehow sharing it here makes it a bit easier to handle. I'll keep you posted if anything else crazy happens, but for now, I'm just enjoying the peace that comes with having my priorities straight. Catch you all on the next update. Update 4. Hey everyone. A few of my family members have officially crossed into uncharted territory. They're suing me. The reason? They believe that because my children don't have the family surname, I shouldn't inherit from Grandpa. Their argument hinges on a bizarre interpretation of family legacy and entitlement, which, frankly, is just a thinly veiled attempt to get their hands on Grandpa's money. But that's not all. They're also challenging the validity of Grandpa's will by questioning his mental health. According to them, only someone not in their right mind would leave a significant portion of their estate to someone whose kids don't carry the family name. They're painting a picture of me as some kind of master manipulator who tricked a vulnerable old man into writing them out of the will. Grandpa was absolutely furious when he found out about the lawsuit. Despite his age, he's got a fire in him that I've always admired. He called me up, fuming, and assured me he had everything under control. I've got a good lawyer, and I'm not about to let these greedy opportunists tear my family apart, he declared. It was both reassuring and sad to hear him so worked up over his own family's actions. He's now fully engaged in this battle, actively working with his lawyer to defend his decision and prove his mental competence. He's made it clear to everyone that his will reflects his true wishes and that he made those decisions with a clear and sound mind. This lawsuit has thrown the family into chaos. Some members who were initially on the fence have now chosen sides, with most aligning against me, driven by either greed or spite. The few who remain neutral are staying out of the fray, but the tension at family gatherings, not that I attend these, is reportedly through the roof. The reactions to Grandpa's staunch defense of me and his will have been varied. Some are shocked that he's taking such a firm stand, while others are angry and doubling down on their claims. It's like watching a family implode in real time. On the legal front, things are looking pretty solid for us. Grandpa's lawyer is one of the best in the business, and he's been thorough in documenting Grandpa's mental fitness and the clarity of his intentions when he revised his will. They've gathered statements from his doctor, friends, and other family members attesting to his mental acuity. We've also been preparing for the possibility that this could drag out. The lawyer has been very proactive, organizing our defense and ensuring that every possible angle is covered. It's been a lot of meetings, a lot of paperwork, and a lot of strategy sessions, which are surprisingly draining. This whole ordeal is taking its toll on everyone. For me, it's been a whirlwind of stress, frustration, and disbelief. Watching my family turn against me over money has been disheartening but also eye-opening. My wife has been my rock, helping me navigate these turbulent waters and keeping our home life as normal as possible for our kids. Grandpa, meanwhile, is both angry and heartbroken. It pains him to see his family divided like this, but he's also determined not to let greed win. He spends a lot of time with his lawyer, making sure everything is ready for whatever comes next. Update 5. Hey everyone. So the big news. We won the case, and not just a simple win. It was a landslide. The judge dismissed my family's claims against Grandpa's will, stating clearly that there was no evidence of any manipulation on my part and that Grandpa was completely of sound mind when he made his decisions. But here's the kicker. Because their claims were deemed so baseless and frivolous, the court also ordered them to pay both Grandpa's and my legal fees. Talk about a twist. You'd think that losing the case and having to cough up money for our legal expenses would make my relatives rethink their actions, but it only led to the next act of this saga. Shortly after the verdict, several family members started showing up, literally coming to my door and calling me non-stop, begging for forgiveness. They wanted me to somehow convince Grandpa to reconsider and put them back in his will. It was a total 180 from their previous aggression and entitlement. I've got to say, telling them to buzz off was one of the most satisfying moments of my life. After years of being the black sheep and then being dragged through a legal nightmare, I had no sympathy left for their pleas. I made it very clear that not only would I not advocate for them with Grandpa, but they were also no longer welcome in my life in any capacity. The bridges were burned, and I was the one holding the match this time. Grandpa was just as resolute. When he heard about their latest antics, he scoffed and said he had no intention of rewriting anything in his will. Let them learn the hard way, he told me over the phone, his voice firm, but I could hear the fatigue. The whole ordeal had taken its toll on him too, but he was relieved to see justice served and to know that his real intentions were upheld. This whole experience has been eye-opening. I've learned that family isn't always defined by blood, but by actions and respect. My true family, the people who stood by me through all of this, consists of my wife, my kids, Grandpa, and a few loyal friends. Everyone else is just background noise. Now with the lawsuit behind us, I'm focusing on the future. We're planning a little getaway to decompress and celebrate the victory, just me, my wife, and the kids. As for Grandpa, I've promised to visit more often with the kids, so he can enjoy his great-grandchildren without the shadow of family greed looming over us. Thanks to all of you for the support and advice throughout this battle. It's been a wild ride, and sharing it here has been incredibly therapeutic. I'll pop in with updates now and then, but hopefully, my future posts will be about more joyful and less dramatic adventures. Take care, and remember, sometimes standing up for yourself means standing against others, even if they're family. Update 6. Hey everyone, I'm writing this update with a pretty heavy heart. Some of you have been following my family saga for a while now, and unfortunately, things have taken yet another dramatic turn. My grandpa, who was a central figure in my life in recent stories, has passed away, it's been a rough time, but not just because of the grieving process. True to form, the family drama didn't pause to give us a breather. My grandpa recently passed away after a brief illness. It wasn't entirely unexpected given his age, but it's still a hard hit. Among his final arrangements, he left behind a personal letter for me, which was both touching and clarifying. In it, he expressed deep regret for the years we lost when we were estranged and explained some of the reasons behind his decisions. He apologized for not being there when I needed him and expressed how proud he was of the person I've become, despite the family chaos. The letter is something I'll always hold dear. It was written in his meticulous handwriting, each word carefully chosen, and it provided a lot of closure on issues that had bothered me for years. It was Grandpa's way of making peace, and I'm grateful for that. As executor of his will, I had a front row seat to the unfolding drama once his will was publicly read. Grandpa was quite wealthy, and he left a substantial inheritance to me, acknowledging in his will that this was both a gesture of love and a means to make amends. You'd think that after the recent court battle, which affirmed Grandpa's mental competence and right to decide on his estate as he saw fit, my relatives would step back. Well, think again. Almost immediately, my phone started blowing up with messages and calls. Relatives who hadn't bothered to check in on Grandpa or me for years were suddenly keen to express their grief and family solidarity. But it didn't take long for their true motives to surface. Here's a rundown of the kind of messages I'm dealing with. A cousin I haven't seen in over a decade messaged me about how they're struggling with mortgage payments and how a small help from the inheritance could save their family home. An aunt who famously declared I'd never amount to anything suddenly recalled our close childhood bond. She hinted heavily that investing in her failing business would be what Grandpa wanted, as it would keep the money in the family. My younger brother, who sided with others during the lawsuit, sent a long, rambling email about how unfair it was that I was hoarding family resources that could benefit everyone. I've had to be firm, maybe even harsh. My response has been consistent. No. I explained that the inheritance was a legal matter, settled by Grandpa's clear wishes, and not a family slush fund. I've also reminded them that their current financial or personal situations, while unfortunate, are not reasons for me to disregard Grandpa's final wishes. Given the previous lawsuit, I'm not taking any chances. I've consulted with my lawyer to ensure all interactions that could be legally relevant are documented. My wife and I are also planning how to use the inheritance responsibly. We're looking at setting up educational funds for our kids, contributing to charity, and possibly investing in a few long-term financial securities. We want to honor Grandpa's memory by using this inheritance to secure our children's future and help others, not fuel endless family greed. This whole ordeal has been exhausting and enlightening. I've come to see how toxic dynamics can overshadow genuine relationships and how money can twist familial bonds into something unrecognizable. My focus now is on my immediate family, my wife and kids, and on moving forward with the lessons learned from Grandpa's life and the recent conflicts. Thanks for letting me share all this. This community has been a great sounding board and support network through all the ups and downs. I hope my next update will be more positive, maybe sharing how we've put the inheritance to good use, or plans for a family vacation, far away from all the drama. Stay tuned and take care.